Yo, you guys, what is good, man? Welcome back to Real United Talk, where we talk about all matters Real Madrid and Man United. This is going to be a United Matters episode, and today we're going to be doing something a bit different. As you can see, the screen is looking a bit shaky, and that's because I'm going to be doing something a bit fun today. So, as you guys know, the transfer window ended a few days ago, and Man United, we did some good business here and there. So, today I decided to talk about all Man United's transfer business since 2015, and I'm going to be ranking it from, as you can see, amazing to terrible. So, whether we did amazing in that window or whether we did terrible, I'm going to be talking about it and ranking them based on what we needed, based on how they performed. You get it when I get into the, I don't want to yarn so much about that. You get it when I get into the episode. But before we start, I'm just going to give you guys a few rules and regulations for this episode. So the first things first is that it is from 2015. So that 15-16 summer window. So the season that we signed Martial and everything, that's going to be when I'm ranking it from. The second thing is that it is only summer signings. So no Bruno, no Sanchez. Thank God we don't have to talk about him. But yeah, no Bruno, no Sanchez. It is only based on summer signings. And the last rule is that it is only incomings. So we're not going to be talking about incomings and outgoings. We're only going to be talking about incomings. So it's not the general transfer window. It's just like the incoming. So yeah, with that being said, let's just get right into the episode. So yeah, we're going to be starting with the 2015-2016 summer window. And in that window, we signed Martial, Schneiderlin, Depay, Damian, Schweinsteiger, and Romero. In total, we spent 156 million euros. And yeah, we signed those players. And honestly, this window wasn't too bad. Like obviously based on how the players performed and everything, grand scheme of things, like it's not the best, right? But like the window is not too bad. I'm going to be talking about a few of the players that we signed. Like, we signed Martial, Ballon d'Or Martial and everything. And honestly, like, that was a good signing, was a big signing, teenage signing and everything, big money, 60 million euros. Obviously, like, he didn't fulfill his potential at United and everything, but he was a good signing in my opinion, and or in a lot of people's opinion. And he has a lot of memories at United. Like it's good to be in the hearts of all United fans for a long time, no matter what. Like, no matter what you guys want to say, like, Martial is always good to be in our hearts. Obviously, like I said, he didn't turn out the best and everything, but I think that was a decent signing. And now you're looking at the players like Schneiderlin, Depay, Damian. Like, when you look at Depay, for example, and like Depay didn't really live up to his potential, right? Like, but like when you're looking at it from like the grand scheme of things, like we're signing a talent, right? So we're signing a talent, and I think that Depay is a very talented player. And like it just didn't work out for him at United, honestly, and that's sad. But at the same time, like like I don't think that signing Depay was a bad sign. I know, like we signed it for what, 35 million euros. So like I don't think that was a bad signing in general, honestly. But at the same time, like it didn't really work out. So we have to account for all of that. Honestly, as I'm talking to you guys right now, I don't even know how I'm going to be ranking this, because I don't know if I want to use it based on how good that they turned out or based on how good the signing was in general. But like we'll get into that. But yeah, we signed Depay, we signed Schneiderlin. The whole Schneiderlin and Schweinsteiger thing, we signed them in the same window. We signed Schneiderlin for what, 35 million euros, and we signed Schweinsteiger for what, 9 million euros. And yeah, but that midfield duo, it just wasn't the best for United. Like obviously, Schneiderlin was decent at Southampton, right? Like it was a good player at Southampton, and we need midfielders. That's why we signed those two. And it just didn't really work out for him at United. I can't remember how long he stayed. I think he stayed for like 1 season, 2 seasons max or something like that. But like, it didn't really work out for him at United. And, you know, just in general, like times were not really working out for us at United. Obviously, we won the FA Cup that year and everything, but still, like, it wasn't really the best year for United and everything. But was still okay. But the Schweinsteiger thing, was just United's normal thing of signing a veteran, just to help us so that we don't have to spend so much money and everything. We did it with Zlatan, we did it with Cavani, we've done it multiple times. So it's just a thing that United normally do where we sign like veterans and everything. Honestly, in general, this window, I don't think it was terrible. Obviously, the way that the players turned out was kind of terrible. Obviously, and then you're looking at like the Schweinsteigers, you're looking at maybe like the Schneiderlins and everything, but I don't think it was terrible because this window, we signed Romero. Romero, who was a good seventh for us, one of the best rotational keepers I've ever seen in the game. Honestly, like for United at least, but I think that in the game in general, Romero is actually one of the best rotational keepers that you ever get. And we signed him on a free transfer as well. So that's the pretty decent window in my opinion. Obviously, there's some bias to this because Martial was in this window and everything. So Martial has a special place in my heart, so there's some bias to it. But after I actually have to like figure out how I'm going to be ranking this. I'm going to be ranking this based on how these players turned out, or just based on like how well the window went. Because in general, like what I'm looking at here, these are players that we needed. We needed we needed like, like Rooney was getting older and everything. We needed more attacking talent and everything. So we signed Marshall. We needed more attacking talent, so we signed Depay. And then, we needed midfield reinforcements. Yes, Schneiderlin and Schweinsteiger are not the best. We needed midfield reinforcements and we signed those two players. And then we signed Damian as well. Luke Shaw had his injury problems and everything. So we signed Damian. And then we signed a rotational keeper for De Gea. I don't think that this window was bad, but just based on how the players turned out, it wasn't amazing. Like, it wasn't great. So I honestly think that I'll put this window in okay. I think I'll put it in okay just because I feel like we did the business that we needed to do. I don't think that the players turned out the way we wanted them to turn. I don't think anybody on that list turned out the way we wanted to turn out. So, but I don't think there was a bad window as well. So honestly, I think I'll put it in just okay. We did spend too much money as well on this player, so I think I'll put it in just okay. But with that, I'm going to be moving on to the 16-17 window, and in that window we signed Pogba, Mkhitaryan, Bailly, Zlatan, and we spent a combined of 185 million euros. And this is another window that's kind of like shaky as well, because you're looking at it and you're thinking none of these players really like achieved their potential, right? Like obviously Zlatan had the 16-17 season when he was like a monster, but until he got injured and everything. But at the same time, like, it was still very good for us. He was in that Europa League winning squad and everything. Obviously he didn't play the final. He got injured at some point in the season and everything. And it was kind of when Zlatan got injured that we kind of fell off. But like, I think that Zlatan was a good signing. We needed a striker, because as much as Martial showed promise and everything, like Rooney wasn't getting any younger, right? So I think that, and as obviously like we signed Zlatan, who wasn't getting any younger as well. But I think that Zlatan in general was a good signing. I don't think any United fan will argue with the Zlatan signing. And they are now looking at the general window. So we're looking at obviously Pogba, who spent 105 million euros on big money. I think it was the most expensive transfer of all time at that point. And it didn't really work out for him at United. He never got to achieve his potential and everything. But at the same time, like, was Pogba a bad signing? Like, could anybody actually beat that chest and say Pogba is going to be a bad signing for United, or Pogba was a bad signing for United? I don't think so, man. I don't think so. And honestly, like, people label Pogba as a flop, but I don't think that Pogba was a flop, man. Like, I think he didn't achieve his potential. I think he had injury problems. I think he had problems with Mourinho at some point, but I don't think that Pogba was a flop. But like, when you're looking at the flops at United, when you're looking at Sanchez, all these guys that actually like flopped, are you really going to put Pogba in that category? Someone that won us a Europa League, someone that just was good for us, like, that 18-19 season as well. He was probably our best player that year when we were struggling. And I think that Pogba honestly had his moments. Yes, he did not give us like 6 seasons of glory or anything, but he gave us good seasons. Honestly, I think the 16-17 season was amazing. I think the 17-18 season was good. He had his injury problems here and there. The 18-19 season, that's when he fell off with Mourinho. But at the same time, that's also when Ole came in, and then that's when he gave us one of his best seasons in terms of like output. And then, like, just here and there, like, I think that Pogba was honestly good for us. I don't think that Pogba was a flop, I don't think that Pogba was a flop. And I'm looking at the level of players that we signed. Obviously, we signed Mkhitaryan as well. He helped us with the Europa League win and everything. But, he was one of them guys, like, injury problems. It just wasn't working out for him at United in general. He only stayed for, like, one season. But he helped us in the Europa League. And we'll always remember that scorpion kick. I'll never forget that scorpion kick. I think that same week, I think that was the same week that Giroud scored the scorpion kick. I actually think it was the next day. But I know it was the same match week that Mkhitaryan and Giroud scored the scorpion kick. And in my opinion, Mkhitaryan's scorpion kick was better, in my opinion. Obviously, Giroud's was more fancy and everything, but in my opinion, Mkhitaryan's scorpion kick was actually the scorpion kick. But that's not the point of this episode. But yeah. And then obviously Bailly as well, another player, injury problems here and there, just really was never dependable for United. But I think that when Bailly played, I think that he was actually good. I think that Bailly was actually good when he played. Obviously, it was one of them ones that, like, was a risk in terms of, like, his tackling was kind of rash and everything. And, he was just never fit. That was his main problem, in my opinion. He was just never fit. But I think that Bailly had his moments, honestly. And I don't think that Bailly was a bad signing. We signed him for 38 million euros. That's not a bad signing. We signed Zlatan for free. We signed Mkhitaryan for 2 million euros. In general, how these players turned out wasn't really the greatest. But I don't think that this was a bad window. So I can't put it in bad. I think I'll also put it in okay. I think I'll put this with it. I can even put it in good just because of the Zlatan signing. But I think I'll put it in okay just because Mkhitaryan was there as well. But yeah, with that, let's just go to the next one. And this window is the 17-18 window. And that window we signed Lukaku, Matic, Lindelof. And this window is actually, what's so crazy? This is another one that I don't think I can put in bad, I don't think I can put this one in bad. Obviously, the amount of money that we spent was ridiculous. Like we spent 198 million euros on just what 3 players. I think they counted the Sanchez transfer as well, so minus Sanchez, which was what 34 million. But we spent a lot of money on this player. We spent 84 million euros on Lukaku, who didn't really work out. We spent a good amount of money on Matic as well, who was here and there, and then we spent money on Lindelof, who honestly, this window cannot go into the bad category, it can't because United needed the striker when we signed Lukaku. Lukaku, like nobody could argue that Lukaku wasn't a good striker at Everton. So when they the striker we signed Lukaku, obviously a crazy amount of money for a player who really didn't do that much for us and everything, had his problems with United. So I can't really say that he wasn't a flop, but at the same time, I can't say he was because that 17-18 season was good from Lukaku, honestly. I think what he scored 16 goals in the Prem that year. I think that's a pretty decent return. People are saying that if Gyökeres scores 15 goals for Arsenal, that's a decent return. Obviously, Prem proven versus not Prem proven and everything, but I honestly think that was a decent return from Lukaku. He didn't do what we needed him to do. He wasn't the striker that we thought he would be, but I think that he was decent. I think that he was decent. And then looking at players like Matic as well, who I think was also a decent player for United as well. I think that, obviously, like, he was kind of old, but he was older. He was maybe out of his prime by the time we signed him. But I think that partnership that I formed with, like, Pogba, Herrera, and, he stayed for a few seasons as well. Honestly, I think that Matic was a good sign. We did the DM, we signed a DM, and, Matic was not a bad DM to sign. I think when we signed him was like, what, 28? I don't think that was a bad window for United. And then looking at Lindelof as well. And as much as, you can hit on Lindelof all you want, one thing about Lindelof that I love is that he was always there. He was always there, always serving, always ready to serve, honestly. And that's good, man. Like, talking about Bailly, who was never available. And as much as, like, Lindelof was not the greatest player on the planet, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. We all remember Iceman Lindelof, in the 17-18 season. And, he started off his United career kind of well. And he was one of our best defenders for time. But, at some point, he kind of fell off. But he became, like, a rotational player. But I don't think that he was a bad rotational player. He wasn't the greatest. You didn't really want him in your team necessarily. But, like, for a good amount of time, Lindelof was probably one of our best centre-backs. That's saying a lot about the issues that we had in defense for that time. But at the same time, like, I don't think that Lindelof was a bad signing. So, I honestly can't put this window in bad, honestly. So I think I'll put it in good as well. I'll put it in okay. I know obviously like it looks like I'm just everybody just in okay, but like at the same time, like United haven't had the greatest windows, but we also haven't had the worst windows ever. And the next one is the 18-19 season. And just as I said, we haven't had the worst windows ever. I'm going to have to put this one in terrible. I think that this is the worst window United have ever had. Like in my own recollection, I think that this is actually the worst window that United have had. And the reason why is like, I'm going to give you guys context for it. So that season, the 17-18 season, right? Mourinho's second season in United. We finished second in the league, right? We finished second in the league. Obviously, we're ways off from City, but we finished with 81 points. City had 100 points. Nobody was going to beat City, and nobody was really going to be close to City. So we finished with 81 points that year. And then we went to the FA Cup final that year, if I'm not mistaken. That was the year that Chelsea beat us in the FA Cup final. And then I know we got knocked out of the round of 16 of Champions League towards Sevilla or something. I can't remember well, but I think we got knocked out by Sevilla in the Champions League. So maybe we didn't do too well in the Champions League. I can't remember Carabao Cup how we did. But we showed promise, right? We showed promise in the Premier League. We showed promise in the FA Cup, but we showed promise that year. We showed that we could actually be like a team that could compete for titles, right? And I'm looking at it and I'm just thinking like, okay, this season is over. Yes, we're not anywhere close to City and everything, but we should promise. What can we do? What can we cook up to now be closer to City so that even if we don't win next year, we can still maintain that gap with City? We signed Fred. For 59 million euros. As per we want to compete with City, we want to maintain that, like we want to at least close the gap or something, and we signed Fred. Then that wasn't enough. We signed Dalu, who as much as maybe he was a promising fullback at the time, he wasn't what we needed. I think that Mourinho wanted him and everything, but he wasn't what we needed. And we signed Fred. And then we signed Lee Grant from Stoke as well. I don't even know what that one was. I don't know what that was about, but like I'm never going to count that as one of our signings. But we signed Fred and Dalu when we needed to catch up with City. Can you just imagine if, like, let's just say when Liverpool wanted to start catching up with City, or maybe this window when City wanted to catch up with Liverpool, get back into top four, they went to go and sign some media players from some like Do you get what I mean? Like it was just like obviously like Fred was kind of good at was he Shakhtar Donetsk or something? He was kind of good there and everything, but like he wasn't what we needed to catch up with City. He wasn't what we needed to like extend on that promise that we showed in 17-18 season. I honestly think that like this was just a terrible window from United. I think that this probably in context, this probably like our worst window in recent years. Obviously, we've had some stinkers where we've signed players that we don't need to sign, players that have flopped and everything. But I look at this window and I think that this was honestly just terrible business from United. Yes, Fred had his moments for United. He was a good servant in terms of like, just being always available, never complaining kind of thing. But at the same time, he wasn't what we needed. We didn't need a Fred. We didn't need Dalo at that time to compete, to continue competing with City. And what we came sixth that year. We sacked Mourinho. We signed Solskjaer, who did well for us, but we still ended up finishing sixth and everything. But it just wasn't. It wasn't the window, man. I honestly think that this was a terrible window from United. But let's just move on to the next one, which is the 1920 window. And this one was a kind of like a step up from the previous year. Obviously, like when you look at the players that we signed and how they turned out, it wasn't really the greatest. That year we signed Bruno as well in the January window, but like I said, like the January window doesn't count in this. So that year we signed Maguire for 87 million euros. We signed Wan-Bissaka for 55 million euros, and then we signed Daniel James for 17 million euros. And we needed strength in defense, right? I don't think that Maguire was a bad, like I don't think signing Maguire was a bad signing. City also wanted Maguire as well. I don't think that was a bad signing. Looking at Maguire today right now, and whatever arc he was going through at some point where he was like just terrible. Like right now, he has redeemed himself. Obviously, like he's still not the best centre back. Obviously, he's still not worth that money that we signed him for. But honestly, nowadays, like who is? I know that was kind of like before nowadays, but still, like who is what the money that you sign them for nowadays? Because like everybody's going for 100 million plus and everything. Nobody can really live up to the money that they signed them for. But like signing Maguire for 87 million euros is crazy. Most expensive centre back at the time, most expensive defender at the time at that point, I think. But signing Maguire for that amount of money is crazy. I think that was crazy. I think that we're looking at City who kind of like went away from the race and everything because of that amount of money. And like you can look at it and say that United won the race at the end of the day, but you can look at it and say that like United were kind of like baited into spend the amount of money. But and it's just kind of like what United have done for some time, like just like spending a crazy amount of money on a player that is not really worth that amount of money. But Maguire, he has been with us for a long time, and say what you want about Maguire, but like he has always been there, even in his worst times. He was always there, always showing up, always ready, never complaining. They took away his captaincy, and he became even better. Like, and that 1920 season wasn't bad for Maguire. I think that season we came third in the league or something. That was a good season for Maguire, honestly. And then he started falling off from there. But the past two seasons, Maguire has been decent. Like this season is playing. I don't think he hasn't really played that much. He hasn't really started for us in the Premier League or anything. But like I think that Maguire has been a good seven for us. A few clutch goals here and there. But like I honestly think that Maguire hasn't been bad. You're looking at the money, obviously, and you're thinking, wow, like that's crazy. That's honestly the reason why I'll put it there. But like Maguire hasn't been bad. But I don't want another player like Wan-Bissaka who they did my boy Wan-Bissaka wrong, They did Wan-Bissaka wrong because till this day, yeah, I can't tell you why we sold Wan-Bissaka and kept Dalo. Like I can't tell you why. And the reason why I say that, yeah, is because like I feel like people judge Wan-Bissaka not because necessarily like he wasn't good in attack, but because he looked wiggity on the ball. I don't, because like I think that people look at Wan-Bissaka here and they're like, this guy is wiggity on this ball. Like he wasn't terrible. Like his crosses were actually kind of decent. He was good at overlapping and everything. And I feel like one of the biggest misconceptions about Wan-Bissaka was that like he was this guy who couldn't join the attack. This guy was a winger at Crystal Palace, number one in the academy. He was a winger at Crystal Palace. So you cannot say that like he's not really like obviously he wasn't the greatest, but at the same time you cannot say that he just wasn't good at all. But like he was good for us, man. Like his defensive side of his game was very good. Those slide tackles, nobody could really beat this guy. Like Sterling hated to see him coming. Mbappe and Neymar hated to see him coming. Like this guy held on Mbappe and Neymar, bro. And I'm just looking at that here and I'm thinking to myself, like Wan-Bissaka was great at United. Like, he wasn't the greatest, but like I think that he was good for United. And I'm thinking like as much as like, he wasn't the best, he gave us something, right? I'm looking at Dalo and I'm just thinking like he wasn't really offering anything to us. Like, like his attack, because he was supposed to be this guy whose attacking side of his game was like, just better than Wan-Bissaka. But like, was he really? It wasn't really better than Wan-Bissaka, was it? Like, it wasn't anything to say that okay, this is why we're selling Wan-Bissaka and keeping that low. The defensive side of his game is also not as good as Wan-Bissaka's game as well. So like, I'm just thinking like, what did Dalo really offer United that Wan-Bissaka couldn't? Like, Wan-Bissaka gave us something. At least Wan-Bissaka on the pitch, you knew a particular, like you knew what you were going to get from him. With Dalu, I don't know, like this game you have the worst crosses in the world. This other game you have like a decent cross here and there, but like like it's just Dalu is just a whole case where like I've never really trusted him. Obviously, like this he had that game against Burnley recently, which was a very good game from him, and he has had good games here and there and everything. But I'm just looking at that case and I'm just thinking like why, like what was the decision behind that and everything? Because honestly, I just feel like people hated on Wan-Bissaka just because like he looked wiggedy, not because he was actually wiggedy. But um yeah, we signed Wan-Bissaka that window, and I think that he was good for us as well. We did defensive reinforcements that window, so we signed Wan-Bissaka, we signed Maguire, and then we signed Daniel James. And that one is just like we thought we were signing somebody like we thought we were signing a promising talent and everything. We signed Swansea, the pace and everything. Obviously, I don't think anybody expected Daniel James to be like the next Sterling or anything like that. But it was going to be one of them ones where like we signed this promising talent and everything, maybe like a good rotational player or something like that. But like Daniel James not really the best quality. I think honestly, just because of the amount of money that we spent on Maguire and the fact that we signed Daniel James, and that was like kind of all the business that we did. I'll put it in bad. I think I'll put it in bad. I won't put it in good because I won't put it alongside these windows. Obviously, I have my biases for Wan-Bissaka. I love Wan-Bissaka United. If you guys can tell from the way I was talking about him, Maguire hasn't been that terrible for us and everything. But I'm looking at Daniel James. I'm looking at the fact that we spent 80 million on Maguire. I'm just thinking like I can't put it in okay, so I'll put it in bad. But let's just move on to the next one. And that window, yeah, this window is, bruh. Can I put it in terrible? We signed Van de Beek. We signed Ahmad. No, we signed Ahmad in January, sorry. We signed Van de Beek. We signed Alex Telles. We signed Pelestri. And we signed Cavani. Cavani, obviously, like, great for us. Great for us. Like, I will never forget that Roma game. Amazing. Bro, Cavani. I don't want to talk about Cavani because I feel like if I start talking about Cavani, I'll just start going mental, bro. Like, I love Cavani, man. Obviously, when Ronaldo came, he kind of got phased out of the team and everything. But, bro, Cavani was good for us, man. Like, I need to win that Europa League. God, I need to win that Europa League. See, I can't get into this, man. I can't get into this because if I get it, I'll honestly start crying. I can't get into it. But Cavani was obviously very good for us. But I'm looking at that window, yeah? And we signed Van de Beek. And, we signed Van de Beek to be this, like, extra man, like, like, when Bruno is not playing and everything. But the thing with Bruno is that he's never not playing. I think that's why anytime someone says that, oh, this guy is going to compete with Bruno, or a player, like, it's just like, how? Because Bruno is never not playing. That's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing that Bruno is never not playing. It's not a bad thing that he's so good that he has to play every game. That's not a bad thing. I'm just saying that, like, this type of players, yeah, they can't really sign somebody to, like, compete with them for that place. Because at the same time, like, Van de Beek and Bruno don't have the same profile. Like, they're not the same profile of player. Like, and you're looking at that here and just thinking, like, we needed a Bruno profile more than we needed a Van de Beek profile. I think that the only way that this could work was if Bruno and Van de Beek were on the pitch at the same time. But, like, could never really do that. So, we didn't need a Van de Beek profile at the time. We had Bruno, who was always playing every single game, and Van de Beek just never worked out. I think obviously a lot of players from that Ajax class did not really work out, but Van de Beek just never worked out at United. Like, it was just so sad. I think that he deserved a bit more game time than he got. Like, it was just like the way we were treating him was just terrible, honestly. But I think that he deserved maybe a bit more game time than he got. And, he just never got it. Like, I'm not saying that he was good. I'm not saying that he ever showed anything. But come on, we did him bad, man. We did him bad. But look at that. You look at Telles as well. Yes, Telles had his moments and everything. I think, was it that goal in the Champions League against Villarreal? Very, very banging goal. Was it in Champions League or Europa League? I can't remember. Oh, sorry. He played in Europa League that year. But I think it was against Villarreal or something. No. I can't remember, but I remember this goal that he scored for us. I just can't remember. Just can't remember when he scored that goal, but I just remember this goal that he scored for us. But Telles was a good. It was decent, but like and it was a good signing at the time. We spent 15 million euros on him. He was very good at Porto, very good in the attacking side of his game. Luke Shaw had all these injury problems and everything, so we needed a rotational player for him, so we signed Alex Tellers, and that wasn't a bad signing. Obviously, it didn't really work out for him, but that wasn't a bad signing in my opinion. We signed Pelestri as well. Was good to be another one of them. Like, we didn't expect him to be like great or anything. He can become great, but like we didn't expect him to be great. We expected him to be this guy that we have in the team, good rotational player, all that yada yada yada. And it just never really worked out for him at United. I won't put it on the level of Daniel James, but I'll put it on that level at the same time. But this window wasn't the greatest. Obviously, you're looking at the way the players turned out, and except for Cavani, none of them really achieved anything at United. And none of them you could really say were life changers for United. Like you couldn't really say, yes, we really need this guy. Maybe except from like Cavani, like I can't really look at this window and be like, we needed this. So honestly, I won't put it in terrible because I think that honestly that 1819 window deserves to be there alone because that window was just terrible. But I'll put it in bad because I don't think it wasn't okay, it wasn't good. I think it was bad. But yeah, with that, let's move on. And I'm going to the 21-22 window. And this one we signed Sancho, Varane, Ronaldo from hitting. And hmm, mm, uh, I look at this window here and I'm looking at it like this. Did Sancho work out at United? No. Are we paying him too much money? Definitely. 350k a week is ridiculous. Are we signing for 85 million euros and we're still paying him 350k a week? And then he's not really playing. But I look at this here and I'm thinking, like, Sancho wasn't a bad signing. Signing him for that amount of money itself was even bad. Maybe the amount of money that you're paying him is terrible, which is something United are associated with. But signing Sancho for 85 million euros is not bad. Like we wanted him for what, like 2 years before that, and we finally signed him 85 million euros. I think that the Sancho signing was kind of like clouded by the Ronaldo signing, and you know, like it just never really worked out for Sancho at United. I'm not giving excuses for why it doesn't work out for him, but I think that just never really worked out for Sancho at United. He was never the poster boy that he was promised and everything, and he has just never shown what he could be. But like signing him, like just signing Sancho has just never been a mistake in my opinion. But at the same time, it's a mistake when you're thinking about like the grand scheme of things. But I look at Sancho and I'm thinking like when we signed Sancho, we thought we were signing a right winger, but then it turned out that he preferred the left wing. And then that's just kind of weird because like for me, I don't really, I never watched the Bundesliga, right? But like in times I saw Sancho, in my head, I saw Sancho being a right winger. I thought he was better off the right wing. He had that whole partnership thing we have Kimi. So I'm just wondering how, like, he came to United and like it was just like, oh, he prefers the left wing. And I'm thinking like, was there a mistake on United's part? Like, did we not scout him properly? Because like we needed a right winger because Rashford was there. We needed a right winger, we didn't need a left winger. So I'm looking at that and I'm just thinking like, was there a mistake on United's part not scouting him properly and everything? And just in general, like it just never really worked out for Sancho. And I'm not giving him any excuse, like I said. And we spent him for 85 million, 250k a week for nothing. So it was a bad signing in general. And but I can't say it was I can't say that was a mistake signing Sancho. Like, because like at that time, like Sancho was a great signing, so I can't say it was a mistake. But then you're looking at Varane as well, and Varane had his moments for us, man. We spent what 40 million euros on him, and Varane was a good player for us, man. Varane was a good player for us. And that player with a lot of injury problems and everything, but when he was playing, he was one of them ones that, like, when he's playing kind of thing. It's kind of like Casemiro, not necessarily Casemiro, but kind of like Casemiro. I think that Varane was a good signing, man. I don't want to start yarning too much. I think that Varane was a good signing. We signed him for 40 million euros from Madrid, needed the experience, and we got the experience from him. And I don't think that Varane was a bad signing. Obviously, it didn't really work out for him, but I don't think it was a bad signing. And obviously, we signed Ronaldo Bomba. That one was kind of like, he was meant to go to Man City, and then, like we just said, bro, you're not going to Man City, but you're coming to United. Because I remember that day, like, I slept, I can't lie to you guys, I slept that day crying, thinking that Ronaldo was going to go to Man City. I was actually crying. And then I woke up and I saw that Ronaldo is in United. I saw him in the United jersey. I was like, what? I was like, what? What do you mean, bro? My goat is back? Nah, that was crazy. That was crazy. But obviously Ronaldo, I can't say that Ronaldo is a bad thing. Obviously he had his bad falling out with Ten Hag and everything. The way he left was terrible. But I can't say my Ronaldo was a bad signing. The first thing that he came, he scored 18 goals in the Prem. 18 goals in the Prem at his age, 18 goals, scored 6 goals in Champions League, scored 24, 25 goals that year. Ronaldo was not a bad signing. Obviously, he fell out with Ten Hag. Maybe he wasn't really what we needed in next season, but I think that Ronaldo wasn't a bad signing. I'm looking at this window and I'm thinking, okay, we signed Ronaldo, we signed Varane. Obviously, we signed Sancho, who costed 350k. And can I put it in? Can I put it in? I can't put it in good, obviously. I can't put it in. You know what? I think I'm going to put it in okay, but I think is one of them is closer to bad than good. The reason why, yes, Ronaldo didn't work out for too long and everything, but I think that year he saved us so many times. Like I said as well for Varane, we did the experience to sign Varane, and when he played, he played. Sancho obviously has not worked out 250k a week for that amount of money as well, but like I think so. I'm good to say that it's okay, but it's closer to bad than good for this window. But yeah, I'll put it in okay. And now going on to the next one, the 2023 window where we signed Anthony, Casemiro, Lisandro, Malacia, Ericsson as well. We signed Ericsson as well in that window for free. And you know, mm, Anthony 95 million euros is mental, bro. I don't know what Ten Hag saw. I honestly don't know what Ten Hag saw. Like I don't know. Not that I don't know what he saw, because obviously, like, he coached them at Ajax, and at Ajax, Anthony was like a talent and everything. But like, what made him spend that amount of money? Because like, as much as like you can believe that a player is a talent, like, is your choice to now decide, oh, do I spend this amount of money on this player? And from the start, I never thought that signing Anthony for that amount of money was good, because like, as much as he had his moments in Champions League, everything, like he played well for Ajax that year, just didn't like 95 million euros for Anthony. Like, who was he? Who was he? Who was he? Obviously, and then he came and they like, he basically lied to us, scored on his debut, scored like in his first 3 games or something like that. And then everybody thought, wow, I've finally gotten a right winger and everything. But like 95 million, like what I'm looking at it like here is that we need the right winger because Sancho had proven to not be a right winger, and then we signed Anthony. And then like even with the whole Sancho thing as well, I'm thinking that like Ten Hag loved Anthony so much, and I think that he played favorites to Anthony because as much as like Sancho was never the greatest, right? I think that Anthony too was never the greatest, and the fact that Anthony always played over Sancho no matter what, Anthony will literally be terrible at United, and Sancho will still not get any game time. And you're looking at that and you're just thinking like, yes, Sancho is not the greatest, but Anthony too is not the greatest. So what's going on there? But I can't in my heart of hearts say that like Anthony is probably one of the worst signings in United history, based on the fact that it didn't work out for him at United, based on the amount of money that we spent on him. I know that's never the player's fault, but at the same time, I don't know what Ten Hag was thinking spending 95 million euros on him, and it just never worked out for Anthony. Obviously, I'm now looking at Casemiro. Casemiro is still playing with for us to this day, and that season that we signed him was really good for us. Like I've said it time and time again, the Casemiro signing was kind of like a panic buy from Ten Hag because like I think that Ten Hag, like everybody and their moms knew the type of player that Ten Hag wanted. Ten Hag wanted the young all window. He wanted the young, and then at some point, I think we got twacked by, was it Brentford or something, and then he just decided or just changed his mind and said that, oh yeah, I'm just going to get a destroyer in midfield, and he got Casemiro, and he worked out that year, right? Like we came third, we won the Carabao Cup, we worked out that year, but like you look at it in the long run for Ten Hag, and you're thinking like it didn't really work out for him because like it's almost like he abandoned his principles when he signed Casemiro, and like that was like a temporary fix rather than a long-term solution, in my opinion, when he signed Casemiro. And it was kind of like panic because like he had just lost his first game of the league season 4-0. It was just like kind of like he just got scared and then he signed Casemiro. Obviously Casemiro, as much as like United fans have wanted him out here and there, he has proven to be a good servant. He's having a decent season this year. So I can't really say that Casemiro is a bad signing, but at the same time I can look at it and just be like, that was a panic buy. And then you're looking at Lisandro, who the butcher, he has had his moments for us, obviously, like not just moments, like he has been good for us, but he's injured, man. He's injured. When he's like I said, them players, when he's playing, he's playing. But like he's injured, man. And like I feel like with his injuries, yeah, every time he comes back from injury, he's never fully fit. And he now needs time to like get back into the game, and then he gets injured again. Like since that first injury that he got that year, has just never been the same. because he's injury after injury after injury, and now he's injured again. We're waiting for him to come back. But yeah, Lissandro. Also, we did the centre back when we signed Lissandro. That was the only time that Miguel was flopping and everything. So we did the centre back, and then we signed Malasia. We did left back depth, and we signed Malasia for 50 million. So it was never like I don't think that signing Malasia was a bad signing. It was one of them, like like everybody knew what he was. He was a rotational player, and we signed him for 50 million euros. So I think that Malasia was a bad signing, but I don't think that he was a great signing. And it just never worked out. He got that injury, and since then he's just out of the United squad. So I look at this window and I'm just thinking like any of these signings here, like Casemiro was a panic buy. Anthony, I don't know why we spend that amount of money on him. Lissandro was a good signing, still a good signing till now. When he's fit, he's fit. Malasia and Ericsson. Ericsson, who I think was a decent signing as well, he has done things for us, but this window was not the best for United. And I think it would be kind of harsh of me to put it in bad and put the 21-22 window in okay. But I think I'll put it in bad. But when I'm looking at the amount of money that we spent, when I'm looking at the amount of wages that are going out that year, and they're just looking at how the players have kind of like turned out, they're looking at like the profile of players that we signed. I just don't think that it was a good window for United, so I think I'll put it in bad. Like I said, it's kind of unfair that I put 21-22 in okay, but yeah, honestly, I think that we could have done better that window. With the amount of money that we're spending that year, I think we could have done better that window. But let's just get into the next one, which is the 23-24 window, the Hoyland year. So that year we signed Hoyland, we signed Mason Mount, we signed Onana, we signed Amrabat, we signed Bainde. Oh, we signed Onana and Bainde in the same window. We signed Johnny Evans and we signed Reguilon. And we spent a total of 210 million euros. First off, 70 million for Hoyland was always crazy. Like, I think I've already made it clear how I felt about Hoyland and how I felt about us treating Hoyland, the way we treated Hoyland and everything. But 70 million for Hoyland was always crazy. Like, this player that had not really had a full season with Atalanta, he showed promise, obviously, but he had never really been like that starter or anything like that. Was just one of these guys that was just showing promise. Was that promise worth 70 million? I don't know. And then he came to United. We just threw him into the first team and we said, yeah, bro, take it, bro. Like, play every single game. And he had to play every single game for United. And I'm just thinking like this is a young guy, right? Like this is a young guy. He needs time to adapt. And we never give him that time to adapt because we're just saying play every single game. Obviously, a player cannot really say that he doesn't want to play, but at the same time, like I can imagine just the amount of pressure that was on him. We needed a striker at that time, so I won't say that it's bad. And we're looking for talent because Martial was kind of older and everything, so we're looking for talent. But like signing Hoyland for that amount of money and just throwing him to the fire that soon, I just don't think that was good business, man. I don't think that was like seeing how we did him. I'm just thinking that like, why don't you just go and sign somebody maybe a bit more experienced and someone that can actually take that pressure? Why are you signing Hoyland? If that's what we need, why are you signing Hoyland? And then looking at Messi Mount as well, who is having a good season right now, has had his moments here and there, but spending 6-7 million on him when he had 1 year left on his contract, when he had the injury problems at Chelsea. Obviously, I can see why we signed him, debt for Bruno, all of that, but at the same time, it's just like, why are you spending that amount of money on Messi Mount? And why are you giving him like what 250k wages when he had these injury problems at Chelsea? That time he had fallen out at Chelsea, so he's like, what's going on here? Why are we spending that amount of money on him? And he now signed Onana, let go of the bro. I swear, yeah, as much as Ten Hag got these moments here, I feel like sometimes this guy just didn't know how to spend his money because this guy signed Onana for 15 million. We're giving him so much wages, and I'm just thinking like, as much as we need a keeper who was good with his feet and everything. Another year we enter as well in the Champions League, but like I can't even say that I watched him enough in Inter in Syria to be like that was a good signing or not. But 50 million for him, letting go of the hair or treating the hair like I just can't, man. That was too much money spent, and they will send Amrabat for a 10 million loan fee. Like as much as Amrabat was good for us, 10 million loan fee. Come on, bro. Come off it. Like it was good, we needed the rotational player at that time. We needed the starter self in our midfield and everything, but it was good for us, man. Like he had his moments for us. It was, he said that he wanted to play. He said that if you put him anywhere on the pitch, you play. I remember we put him in left back sometimes. I think that it was decent for us, but like, spending the amount of money on him was not justified. 10 million loan fee, 10 million. That's what you signed him on a permanent. Maybe add 5 million and sign him on a permanent. And then we signed by in there as well. 5 million, rotational keeper. I can't really talk too much on it. He hasn't really proven to be the best, but he's still kind of young and was a rotational player. We signed Johnny Evans and Reguilon as well. Free transfer, loan transfer. So I won't really talk too much on those ones. But this is another one where I'm looking at them. I'm not thinking like, with the amount of money that we had to spend, so like, why didn't we allocate the funds better? Because as much as like you couldn't really tell that any of these players were going to flop necessarily, we had so much money because we spent 210 million. That's a lot of money that you can allocate to different places, different players. Just thinking like we could have done better with that amount of money that we had. We could have done better. I don't think that the money was allocated properly. I don't think that Ten Hag spent money properly. So with that, I think I would put it in bad as well. I think I'll put it in bad because I just can't look at this window and say it was a good window. Obviously, I think it was better than the last window. I think it was better than the last window, but still, it just wasn't a good window for us. With the amount of money that we had to spend on players that we did spend it on, giving them the amount of money as well in terms of wages, I just don't think that was a good window for us. So I think I'll put it in bad. But with that, let's move on to the next one, which is the 24-25 window. We signed Leniero, Ugarte, Delict, Zexi, Mazrari. I think that this one was a better window, man. I think that this was a better window. Euro, obviously, promising talent. Real Madrid wanted him as well, and we got him. Obviously, like, was because like the money and everything. Real Madrid didn't want to pay that amount of money, which is fair. So we got him, and right, he's still showing promise to this day. Obviously, he had that game against Southampton, which was a horror show. But except from that, like, he has been good for us. Still showing promise to this day. We signed Ugarte, who, people really kind of tried to warn us at that time, saying that like, PSG are selling him for a reason kind of thing, but they said that about a lot of players, right? So you couldn't really just look at the way that people were talking and just be like, yeah, I agree with you guys, but at the same time, he hasn't really worked out, and we spent 50 million on him. So just looking at the fact that he hasn't worked out, but at the same time, we needed a midfielder, we needed a DM, and I think that Ugarte had his moments for us when we signed him that year. I think he had his moments for us, but just hasn't really worked out. And looking at the amount of money that we spent on him as like a PSG reject, it's just not the best, right? It's like, it's just not the best. And we signed Delict as well, who maybe had a bit of a shaky start, but he's proven to be very good for us. He had been one of our better centre backs in recent times. So I think that Delict was a good signing. We signed him for 45 million euros as well. I think that was a good signing from United. We signed Zexi as well, who I think that Zexi was a good signing, but I think that with what we needed, like, we needed depth for Højlund, because Højlund was not ready. He was inexperienced and everything. So we needed depth for Højlund, and with that, we can sign Syria Young Player of the Year. I just don't think that was a good business signing. Like, obviously, it was good business in general, signing a talented player like him. But I think that when you've already signed a player that you thought was like talented in Højlund, now going to kind of sign another talent, kind of like, okay, you guys figure it out together, rather than signing a more experienced player. I just think that was like bad business from United. But I don't think that Zexi was a bad signing from United. I actually really like Zexi. I think can be very good for United. But I just don't think that at that time that's what we needed. And we signed Mazraoui, who 15 million euros has been good for us. He's one of them ones as well. When he's fit, is fit. When he's playing. So I think that Mazraoui was a decent. I think that this was a decent window. I don't think that it was bad. I think it was a decent window. I think with the players that we needed, I think it was a decent window. Obviously, you're looking at Ugarte and thinking that it's not the best window and everything, but I don't think it was bad. So I think I'll put it in okay, because we signed Euro. We signed Euro this window. We signed Delict as well. Can I put this window in good? I think I'll put it in good, I think I'll put it in good, because yes, I'm looking at Ugarte and I'm thinking, but we signed Delict, we signed Mazraoui, and we signed Zexi. Like, Zexi, like I said, like, as much as he was not what we needed at the time, I think that Zexi is going to be a good player for us. And, he has outlived Højlund so far, so I think that's going to be a good player for us, man. So I think I'll put it in good. That's the first one that is going in good. But yeah, let's go to the most recent one, the 25-26 window. And this window, we signed Benjamin Sesko, Mbeumo, Cunha, Lemens, Diego Leon. And this window, this window was like, I think this is probably our best window since Fergie left. Like, in terms of like, just like, okay, we needed a brand new attack, right? We just signed a brand new attack, as in, like, we said Højlund is not cutting it, Garnacho is not cutting it. Then we signed Cunha, Mbeumo, and Sesko. Amorim need a calm, we get you a calm. Amorim need another calm, we get you another calm. Amorim need a striker, we get you a striker. That's just good business, man. And like, as much as like, you know, we paid a lot for these players, like I don't think that we overpaid. Maybe on Bremo, you can say that maybe I think but in Bremo there's a misconception because I think that Brentford had the option to extend, so it was not 1 year, it was 2 years left. And with the season that you just had for Brentford and the market, the way the market is right now, I can't say that spending that amount of money on Bremo was bad. And obviously, like right now, he's showing promise. He's showing that he'll probably be one of United's better players this season. And looking at Cunha as well, Cunha, who I think is our best signing so far. Like I think that with Cunha, just the amount of impact that he has on the game, even without the output, because you're looking at Mbeumo as this guy who's going to have output, and you know that output is going to be scary for us. But you're looking at Cunha, and you're thinking like this guy is going to be one of them players that, like, you know, he doesn't have to score a hat trick every game to have an impact on that game, honestly. And I think that with Cunha, I think that Cunha is a great signing for us. I think it's going to be a great signing. I hope that he comes back from injury really quick. I hope that the injury wasn't as bad as people think it is and everything. I'm hearing that maybe it wasn't as bad. So that's good for us and everything. But Cunha was a good signing. Sesko has obviously not maybe come into his own and everything. But like, you know, I think that with time he'll grow into it and everything. But can I say that Sesko was a great signing? I can't really say it was a great signing, but I think it was a good signing. The amount of promise they have shown, I think that is a good signing, honestly. And then you're looking at Lemens as well. I think that with Lemens really kind of like saved this window because like we needed the keeper badly and then we signed Lemens. I don't think that Lemens is exactly what we needed because like it's just one of them promising talents. Like I think that Lemens is just like a dehe from Atletico. I think I've said that before, where like, you know, he shows a lot of promise. He has a lot of traits that, you know, we can use right now, but at the same time, he has a lot of development that he needs to improve on. And I'm just thinking like, do United have the time to wait for him to develop and everything? Because like we're going to be watching him really closely every single game because like, you know, because of the players that he's replaced and everything. But we need the keeper, we signed the keeper, right? And hopefully at least he's better than Onana and Bayinde. That's the hope right now that he's going to be better than Onana and Bayinde. I don't think that is necessarily what we needed, but he's going to be better than them. I hope that he's going to be better than them. So yeah, I think that signing a keeper really helped this win down. And we signed Leon as well, who we signed him for 4 million as well. And that's going to be depth in that left wing back position. Okay, that was good business in my opinion, man. That was good business. Obviously, we didn't sign a midfielder. We needed a midfielder badly, and we didn't sign a midfielder, which has kind of like taking a stain on this window. But I don't think that like I can't look at any of these signings right now and be like, that's just terrible business from United. Obviously, we haven't gotten to see them in a full season yet, so like, you know, you can't really tell. But I can't look at this one and say that like, but this was an amazing window. Honestly, I think that this is the best window I've had since Fergie left. So I'm going to put it in amazing. I think this was an amazing window from United. I think that is an amazing. I think that all these players have the potential to be great for United. Like I think Cunha, Mbeumo, Sesko, Lemens as well. Leon, obviously, I think would be more of a rotational player, but I think I can be a very good rotational player for United. But I think this was a good window for United. But that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? What would you guys rank all of United's business in 2015? Do you think that I've misranked any of these windows? Just let me know all of that in the comments. Let me know your own ranking in the comments as well. But with that comes the end of this episode. Thank you guys again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I'm going to try and stay consistent, keep on pushing out episodes, and I just will see you guys again next time. Safe.